Hi everyone, Jim here. Uh, Over the past couple of years, I've gotten some requests to do a talk over one of my handguns, and this is it right here. This is an Astra Terminator 44 Magnum. What it is essentially it's a 44 Magnum 6-inch 6-shot revolver, 2 and 5/8 inch barrel length. It's roughly equivalent to the size of a Smith & Wesson in-frame, which would be your Model 29 or 629 44 Magnum, or 27 or 28 357 Magnum. It, for the most part, uses the same grips. You got to make a slight grip modification. Fits in the same holsters, and overall, if you don't know any better, you just grabbed it. You'd be thinking you had a Smith & Wesson in your hand. Internally, it's not at all. Smith & Wessons have flat spring or leaf spring for their main spring to drive the hammer. This has got a coil spring at the bottom, which is interesting. I may do a video with the grips off of it later. At the bottom, it's got a ring with different levels of indent on it for adjusting your coil spring tension for your mainspring. So you can adjust it for lighter or heavier on your trigger pull. If you have a problem with light primer strikes, you can step up on the heaviness, and it'll hit the primer a little harder to make it go off. But this is an interesting handgun. I picked this up back in either 09 or 2010. Between $200 and $300 off the bottom shelf of a gun shop in a little town in Virginia. It was just sitting there, and I'd been looking for one of these. It's been used in a couple of movies, TV shows. If you've ever watched From Dusk Till Dawn, this right here was George Clooney's pistol in that movie. If you're a little bit older, used to watch the TV show Hunter, this was Hunter's revolver. But it's just a very nice shooting handgun. It's nice and heavy. It's not one of the newer, modern, lighter weight materials. This is a lot of Spanish steel sitting here in my hands. These pistols were made in Spain, imported in the United States by Interarms. Originally, these were produced by Astra as a full 6-inch barrel length. They were taken by John Givino in New York City and chopped down to this length. And there were also a few of them done by Gary Reeder at Reeder's Custom Guns. But Givino specialized in selling to New York police, and this right here was a gun that he made up on the request of a few officers. You can Google John Givino Terminator. He also did one based on the Smith & Wesson called Effector, but he specialized in making Snubby pistols for police officers. So yeah, this one started off as a full-length 6-inch barrel, was cut down. If you look at this, you can see where the barrel on it was trimmed up. But now they're very good shooting pistols. It's high quality, good craftsmanship. If you're familiar with older Smith & Wessons, you're probably familiar with the term pinned and recessed, or a P&R gun. That means after the barrel was screwed on, there was a hole drilled through the frame, and it pinned into the threads to keep the barrel from moving. And with the cylinder, when they bored the chambers in the cylinder, they countersunk it to where the rim of the cartridge also went down inside. the cylinder. You can see this right here. There's nothing sticking up. The entire cartridge is encased by the cylinder. But, with your regular factory 44 Magnum loads, this thing is a joy to shoot. Due to the weight, it doesn't recoil bad. You're quick back on the trigger. The trigger is smooth. You pull it back into a single action. The trigger is light. No perceptible movement before the trigger breaks. Excuse me. It has got a white outline rear sight and a red ramp front sight, which should look familiar to anyone who's shot Smith & Wesson revolvers. It's got the push type cylinder release, just like Smith & Wesson does. I said, if you're familiar with Smith & Wesson revolvers, this thing is nothing out of the ordinary to you until you remove the grips or remove the side plate on it. Under the side plate, it's got geared mechanisms that operate off that coiled mainspring, and it is just a robust and very nice feeling, nice shooting setup. And like I said, pull it back into a single action mode, and as soon as that trigger moves, the hammer falls. Now this right here, currently it's got your Pachmayr gripper grips on it, and they feel nice. For carry, I would go for something a little bit different. I'd take the Pachmayr grippers off of it and either go with a set of Smith & Wesson combat grips, or maybe a Pachmayr compact. Excuse me. Cut a little bit off of this, and it tucks away a little better. There's no finger grooves in it. And listen, it's just a very nice shooting pistol. Every now and then you can run across a shop that doesn't know what these are, doesn't put it in on the shelves and book it very high, and pick them up for a song. Or you can go on Gunbroker, and a lot of people know what they are and want them, and I've seen these sell for up over $1,000. It's a nice pistol. I wouldn't pay $1,000 for it. But, like I said, it's just a very good shooter, and this is my favorite revolver. I do carry it quite a bit when I'm in a longer coat or something like that. This is a very nice, cooler weather carry, because, like I said, it is based on Smith & Wesson end-frame. So it's not the narrowest thing in the world. You got a lot of cylinder here you're working with, and you put it in a holster, and you got your with the leather and everything around it. So you've got a decent bulge. It's also got a decently large grip on it. But, if you're going into an area that, there may be some animals to worry about, this is not a bad choice. Load up any of your off-the-shelf 44 Magnum that's not intended for Rugers. You don't put in the ammo in this that you wouldn't put in the Smith & Wesson. But just a good shooter, feels very good in the hand, hits where you want it to, hits hard, and I think it's a rather attractive gun, if that matters to you. One of the things that drew it to me is because, I love how it looked. I got it, I loved how it shot. At the time, I had a Smith & Wesson model 629-5, the 2.5-inch barrel, and fixed gutter sights, and that was my carry gun. The trigger on this put that Smith & Wesson to shame, and I found out that I shot this better, so I sold that Smith & Wesson for better than $1,000, because there are less than 300 of them made. And since I had this, I carried this and shot this, I don't keep guns I don't use. And well, I can think of other places to put $1,000 than sitting on a shelf not being used. If you get any questions or anything, suggestions, questions, things you want, whatever. Uh, Comment below, leave me a message, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks for watching, and until next time.